Well, hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're all well. It's still Tuesday, and this is video 2 of 2. You know the drill. Just in case, if you haven't seen another video from me today, there is another one. Go find it. Just not now, at the end. Yeah. So, look, some people messaged me, multiple people have messaged me, and they've said, look, could you speak about Bryan's parents? Because, look, Bryan's parents, at the end of the day, they have also lost a child, lost their son. Obviously a different way, but ultimately they've lost a son. And it got me to thinking, it got me really into thinking about the situation, because as we've gone through the Idaho 4 case and we've seen numerous things, we've obviously seen all the parents involved all behaving differently, doing different things. And, you know, we've seen Steve Gonsalves, you know, he's clearly a firm advocate for his child, and, you know, he's been very vocal. At times he's said things that people don't agree with, and, you know, he's understandably frustrated. But what I'm trying to get at is, he's out there, and we're seeing him. He's talking. We've seen Ethan Chapin's parents also come forward and say some things and do some things. They're fantastic. They seem a fantastic family, but they've also done things that have made the general public question, you know, their motives for doing and saying certain things. So look, the reality is, no matter what the situation, and no matter what you say and no matter what you do, there will be someone with an opinion, and some of those opinions will be positive, some of them will be negative. That's just the way it is, and you can't escape that. Like me, you know, some people will think my content's good, some people will think it's shite, and again, that's just the way it is. But look, I looked into it a little bit further than this, and it was the fact that you hear the parents of the victims, and they have come forward. The ones that have spoken out. You know, we're not hearing a lot from friends of these people. We've heard some things. Some of them have had interviews and they've spoken about, you know, how they miss their friends and stuff like this. But generally, it's kind of been a blanket silence. There's not really been anything said from the people close to any of the victims since the gag order was in place. And it gave people, I think, the illusion that the gag order literally covered everyone, that the families weren't allowed to speak, and, you know, even the people around the situation weren't allowed to speak. Some have speculated on whether the universities got involved and told people that they're not to be involved, they're not to get on camera, they're not to do interviews. I can see that, I certainly can, but obviously I don't know if that's the truth. You know, the sororities, the fraternities, have they got involved and said, keep your fucking nose clean, keep out of it? Possible. But the reality is the gag order doesn't extend to the families. You know, if they've got things to say, if they want to say things, then they can. You know, that nobody can stop them speaking. So it led me to think, Bryan Kohbergers got a family. He has got a family. We know he's got a mum. We know he's got a dad. We know that he's got sisters. We've heard on the grapevine that the sisters have lost employment through the situation. We've also heard through News Nation and, you know, I think it was Dateline actually, that one of the sisters, or at least one of the sisters, had even kind of pointed the finger to the fact they could have been involved in putting some shade on Bryan, that he was behaving strangely over that period of time, and, you know, they believe that it was him. Again, that is unconfirmed. It's not something that's set in stone, but it's out there. It's out in the ether. So why hasn't Bryan's family come forward publicly to defend him? This recent horrendous case, this Chad Doerman who executed his children, even his father has come forward to acknowledge that what his son did was truly monstrous, completely monstrous. one of the worst crimes you could ever imagine. But even he has come forward and, again, acknowledged the crime, but defended his son in saying this is out of character. I don't know what happened, whether it was a marital situation, whether it was work, whether it was mental health. But he's come forward. He's explained how he's not being able to talk to his son. They're withholding his rights to communicate to his family, so on and so forth. And, that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually waiting for some equipment to come in, so I will do a live specifically on the Chad Durman situation, because that's something that sits close to home with me, and I will explain that in a live. But it just raised the question inside. It was like, if you are a family, if you're brothers and sisters, a mum and a dad, and one of your children or your siblings is in this situation, and you are confident that this ain't them, there is something happening here, and this ain't it, you would be going frantic. I believe, because of how I would be, that you would be front and centre. The press are screaming out for stories to run with. They're chomping at the bit. Every time someone mentions Bryan Kohbergers' name, Ashley Banfield is wetter than an otter's pocket. Do you know what I mean? It's like a fucking child in the 90s, a girl to take that concert. Fucking hell, man. Calm yourself down. But look, so they're going to be chomping at the bit to get information, to get someone to talk. Why would you not be out there speaking about your son, giving people an insight into what he's like from your perspective, what you know of him, what you know he wouldn't do, what you know he did do? And the more I think about this, and the more because Bryan Kohberger's mum was originally on Reddit. She had a Reddit handle, and she was talking. And I thought, do you know what? Maybe she's going to be someone who advocates for her son. She's going to be out there and she's going to be talking, but nothing. That account was shut. It was turned off, and the rest is history. And I thought to myself, this sits uncomfortable with me. And I'm not saying that this is an indication of guilt for Bryan, but I'm wondering whether it assists that thought process in some people's minds. And I'd be interested to hear down below. Please let me know that, whether you have considered this, whether you have considered, why hasn't his parents come forward? And is the fact that none of them seem to be coming forward, and none of them seem to be putting themselves in front of a camera and having their say, is that pointing towards the possibility that they can now be considering Bryan is guilty, and they are trying to distance themselves from the fallout? Let's not forget, we are approximately halfway through. I think it is literally the halfway point towards whether the state is going to turn this into a capital crime. Now, what I will say is I don't see how they cannot. I genuinely don't see how they cannot. When you consider that the factors that they consider when making that decision, and then boxes being ticked, Bryan Kohberger's crime, in the event that it's his, it ticks all of them boxes. So in order to not do so, in order to not go down that route, would surely raise questions as to why not. It would have to be some sort of political move, or an indication that their case against Bryan is not strong enough to withhold the criticism, the going over that it will in that event. And, again, it would be interesting to see. Now, people are talking about delay tactics. Is the defence delaying proceedings? And I think to myself, well, hold on, it could actually be the other side is delaying things, and by the look of it, it does look like they're trying to delay. And is it that they're trying to bolster their case before they make a decision? Why has it been 30 days? Why are we at the halfway point? And they are not yet turning this into, this capital case. You would have thought that straight out the gate it would have been, this is a capital case. We've got the guy. We've got everything that we need. That's it. You defend. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. But we know where we're at, and we know what we're going for. But like I say, within 30 days, this is likely to be a capital punishment case. And I do just wonder as to whether Bryan Kohberger's parents are not doing him any favours by not speaking. In the eyes of the public. Again, I'll be interested to catch your thoughts. You know, I do feel for them. Like I say, just like there have been losses for the families in terms of the victims of the crime, these parents have also lost Bryan in effect. And the downside is to them, and if you're a parent, you'll understand this. You will understand this completely. You know, parents will have unconditional love for their children. That sometimes will be stretched to the point where it breaks, but ultimately your children are your children, and you stand by them through hell and high water. But what you see in the Idaho 4 case is that the parents who have lost their children in this crime, like the Gonsalves, like the Chapins, they will not be seen in the same light as what Bryan's parents did. If any of you have watched the film We Need to Talk About Kevin, I think it's called. It's about a mother whose son goes on to commit an atrocity at his school, and the way with which she is treated off the back end of that. It's a harrowing film to watch. But I feel that is, in essence, what happens in reality, in the real world. The harsh reality is that if you are a parent of a child who commits a heinous act, then in some walks of life you are treated as if you facilitated in that act. And is that right? What is society turning into when that is how it's seen? But anyway, like I say, interested to know your thoughts. Let me know down below. What should Bryan Kohberger's parents do? Are they right to distance themselves, or should they be speaking out if they truly believe their son is innocent? I will see you all tomorrow.